Welcome back and welcome to your Thursday, February 26th morning update. A baker's dozen of Democrat attorney generals and the governor of Pennsylvania have decided to sue Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and DHHS over their reducing the vaccine schedule. Yeah, they filed a lawsuit and everything. They're angry that their blessed CDC, whom they forced everybody to listen to, whom they relied on to justify every ridiculous, stupid thing they did during COVID, has turned on them. And they don't want to listen to the CDC anymore, but they'd like to. So what if they could sue and get the CDC back the way it was before? They're really mad about the change to the ACIP board, the one that approves vaccines. How dare you?
How dare you?
Thank you, Greta. Replace people who were complete incompetents, didn't do any research, and just rubber stamped everything with people who were thoughtful and had consideration for things like actually recorded vaccine injuries, actual necessity of the injection of some chemistry into a child of a very young age who doesn't need it. How dare you?
How dare you?
Thank you again, Greta. Anyway, it's weird because it's almost like a states' rights thing. You know, when they changed the food pyramid, I asked the question. I said, are you guys going to ignore that too? Maybe not. It's very selective. Remember when Obama took Arizona to court? He said, you guys can't enforce immigration law. That's the federal government's job. He won. It is the federal government's job. So when Mr. Trump comes along and says, hey, it's the federal government's job, they're like, no, it's not. Get out of here. You can't. And then they got people all protested up and all the crazy shit happened. It's very selective. Regular voters need to understand that this is how they work. Whatever law, idea, or thing they say today no longer applies tomorrow. And you never know what it's going to be. And while we're on the subject, since I already talked about this, don't forget Obama was allowed to use traffic stops as a criminal charge to deport illegals from the country. Anyway, we already covered that. So Arizona, California, Colorado, Connecticut, Delaware, the state of Maine, Maryland, Michigan, Minnesota, New Jersey, New Mexico, Oregon, Rhode Island, Wisconsin, and, of course, Pennsylvania. They all want a court to validate their right to insist that every state adopt their opinion on childhood vaccines. So much for states' rights, right? And then, of course, they're worried about things. They have to make an excuse. What about the cost? We're going to have to spend so much more on Medicaid and all this other stuff. We're going to have to steal money from taxpayers to counteract the disinformation campaign coming out of the Centers for Disease Control, who could say and do no wrong for years. They are really worried about money. I have a suggestion. I'm willing to bet you have just as much or more Medicaid fraud, Medicare fraud, food stamp fraud, any other kind of federal handout fraud, that you could probably make up all that money and then some if you just investigated the fraud. But the 13 AGs in the governor of Pennsylvania, they won't do that. Don't worry. J.D. Vance is going to do it. I would bet money, maybe a year's worth of Leering Center money laundering, that the U.S. Department of Justice will have an attorney calling these states and these AGs before the midterms, maybe more than once. Meanwhile, RFK is getting sued for trying to do actual science, for actually caring about public health. And that makes sense because we know that Democrats don't care about public health. And they never really did. All they care about is control. And you can tell because they keep changing their position so that it's one of control, not of public health, not of public interest, not of national security. It's all about them. Always is. Always will be. Stop voting for them. They're bad for you. You want to give up something? Give up Democrats. We'll talk to them.